question that we actually had come in, which is something that I think a number of people have thought about, is the idea of selling their property and then renting elsewhere and then buying later. In a weird way, not sort of taking advantage of the stamp duty like holiday themselves, but just that demand that suddenly picked up for people wanting to, say, move out of central London or something like that. I mean, what's your view on that? Is that like a good idea? Particularly, I mean, Verona, based on what you were saying about rental yields, how that's all shifting as well, because is it a case of out of the frying pan into the fire almost?
So I think when you're selling and then buying onwards, unless the two things align perfectly and you sell your property and you buy the new one, then and that happens in many cases, but there is also a lot of cases where someone is selling the property and it's a good time to buy and they get a good price, but they can't find the property of their dreams, and or they don't find the property that's right for them at that time. Absolutely, renting for 6 to 12 months, assessing a new neighborhood or a new community or a new area is a really, really, really good idea for a number of reasons. One, you're not jumping into a long-term commitment in an area that potentially may not be right for you, particularly if you are moving, out of London or out of a city into a different area. But also it puts you in a really strong position, a really good negotiating position when you're selling, and it's there is no dependency on a purchase, and equally when you're buying and there's no dependency on a sale, because in both cases you're compromising on a lot of things, and that when it gets down to the deal, you're having to make compromises with the buyer or the seller, whereas it puts you in a really strong position if you're only doing one of those things at any given time. Clearly it's a bit of upheaval if you have to move into a different area. If you move in a family of 5, for example, and you're having to move twice, that's a bit of a faff factor. But actually, if you can do that and manage it, it's a very wise choice to do if you can't align the two things together in the right way, sensibly.
Yeah, I really echo that as well. In particular, the point around it putting you in a strong position if you don't have a chain in your transaction. So we did some research last year that said people who are cash buyers generally make around a 5% saving on their property transactions, and that's purely just because they have no other hassle within that mortgage chain that is dependent on that whole chain completing. And it is the nature of these things. They often happen in long chains, and so the person that effectively breaks that chain ends up playing quite a valuable part. And also, from my perspective, it's just understanding like that your housing transactions generally aren't short-term things. So you should do whatever's best for you, whatever kind of sets yourself up best to kind of make a longer term decision. And if that is you stay in your house today a bit longer and you forego the stamp duty saving that you would have made, I think in the long run, that's probably good if it means to a better decision that you make in the long run. And also the stamp duty is only one part of the fees and the costs and the hassle that you go through in your kind of transacting of houses. So for sure, it's great and it's a really good thing, and it's definitely prompted a lot of activity in the market. But also there are other fees, there are other hassle that means if it's not right for you at the moment, it's probably maybe for some people not enough to make them transact. But that's just so dependent on your circumstances, your certainty, and what you want to do.